Hey, so this video is for the blanket stitch, which creates this kind of scalloped shape. And then if you want to use them to fill in areas with this super scallop shape, you can use it like that. Okay, so with the blanket stitch, I always start with the stitches all drawn out so I know exactly where they're gonna lay. Again, you might be able to kind of assess it better as you get better at stitching, but really I usually start with them all spaced out. And usually about 1/4 of an inch between each line of the blanket stitch. So each stitch of the blanket stitch makes an L shape like this. So I'm going to start off on the continuous line, bringing my needle and thread out. And then I'm going to insert the tip of my needle at the end of the next perpendicular line. So at the other end of this L shape, I'm inserting my needle. And I'm bringing the tip of the needle out, and just like I've done in past stitches, before I do anything, I'm going to tuck the thread behind the needle. And that's what gives me my L shape. So now my needle and thread is coming out in here. It is holding that piece down. The next L I'm going to make is this one right here. So I'm going to insert the tip of the needle into here, bringing the tip out on the line that I've drawn here, tucking my thread, and pulling it through. So again, this is the L shape I'm creating with this stitch. I didn't really draw it that evenly, but you get the point. So I'm going to insert the needle right here and bring the tip of the needle out on that line. Again, before I do anything, tucking the thread behind the needle and pulling the needle through. Okay, and now I'm going to repeat that until the end. And then for this last stitch, because all of these stitches are supported on one another, you want to make sure that you tack that last stitch down. And so because I want to kind of imitate the leg that the first stitches started on, I'm going to make a little bit, you can, just tack it down right there, but I'm going to continue this line a little bit and insert the tip of the needle here so that last stitch is a little bit longer. All right, and then let me show you that again going in the other direction. So this is still, even though this line is arcing this way, I'm still going to use the same stitch and I'm still doing it in the same way. So I'm bringing the tip of the needle out here. And again, I'm creating this L shape. So I'm going to insert the needle at the end of the L, bring the tip of the needle out on this line, tucking my thread behind the needle, and pulling that thread through. So I'm going to do that a few more times. So this is the same exact stitch. I'm just arcing it in a different direction, so you can really have fun with this stitch. Again, this is my L shape. So my needle's going to go here and come out on the line. Tuck the thread behind and pull it on through. All right, and just a few more of those, and then we will get to this super fun looking area over here. I know you're probably dying to see how to make these shell shapes. All right. Okay, the way that we're going to do this, we've brought our needle and thread out on the straight line. I'm going to insert the needle into the middle of the arc that we're making, so the point where all of these meet up. My needle's going in there. I'm not pulling it all the way through. I'm just bringing the tip out on this curve on the straight line, tucking my thread behind the needle. I bet you're shocked that that happened. And pulling it all the way through. And then I'm going to continue that. I'm not necessarily going to insert the needle into the exact middle every time, otherwise we're going to make like a big gaping hole. So I'm going to kind of stagger it a little bit. So I'm going to bring the needle up a little bit, inserting it into the middle, and bringing it out in the end. Again, we're still making this L shape. I'm still not apologizing for my nail polish not being nice. Tucking the needle and thread, or tucking the thread behind the needle, and pulling through. So I'm going to do that a few more times. Again, this is the L shape. Inserting the needle at the end of the L, the other end of the L. Bringing the tip of the needle out on that line, or somewhere near that line. Get a little more precise there. I usually like to bring it out a little bit shy of that line so that when the thread lies flat on the fabric, it basically lies on that line. All right, and so just a few more. Again, L, insert the needle, bring the needle out, tuck the thread behind before you pull it through. All right, and then I'm going to tack that down with this last stitch right there. So let's start that all over again, shall we? We're bringing the needle out on the straight line. The straight line is the outer curve in this instance. We're inserting the needle into the middle. We're bringing the tip of the needle out at the edge. Tuck that thread behind the needle and pull it through. I have to make everything into a song. For that, I will also not apologize. Insert the needle into the middle. Bring the tip of the needle out on that line. Tuck the thread behind the needle. Pull it through. So I'm going to do that at the speed that I would normally do it at, so you can get an idea of this stitch in motion. All right, and so you'll notice that it feels like there's a little bit of a gap right here, like you kind of want a line to be right there, and maybe even one right there too. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make there be a line there. You can just do a single stitch that joins those to create this continuous design. All right, and then again, I'm starting with my thread coming out of the end of the line, the solid line. I'm inserting my needle at the middle of this shell shape and bringing the needle out at the end of the line, tucking my thread behind the needle and pulling the needle through. Again, inserting the needle into the middle, bringing it out at the end of the line, tucking the thread behind the needle and pulling it through. So again, I don't want all my stitches to be in one place, so I'm going to just stagger these by bringing this stitch just a little bit further up, bringing the tip of the needle out at the end of the line, tucking the thread behind the needle, pulling it through. I'm going to do that for a few more here so you can get the general idea of how this works. And again, every time I do the blanket stitch, I need to tack this end of the stitch down. If you don't tack the end of the stitch down, nothing's holding them down and they're all going to come loose. So to do this last one, come out at the end, bring this out, pull it through. Remember, we're making an L shape. I got one end of my L. Here's my other end of the L. Pulling it up and pulling that through. Okay, sometimes that happens. And what I usually do when the threads decide to be all sorts of unruly, I kind of pull them out a little bit, figure out who's being rude, and try and get them to behave a little bit better. There we go. I'm glad you could see that in action, because I'm sure it'll happen to you about 1,000 times in your stitches. Just pull it out a little, ask who's being unruly, and ask them to behave themselves. All right. There we go. And again, because we have to end this last stitch, so your thread came out in the middle, inserting the thread on the other side to tack that down so everybody stays still. Want to know more about designing your own embroideries? Be sure to check out my latest book, The Art of Embroidery Design, or find a little magic in your threads with my best-selling book, Mystical Stitches. And if you enjoyed this stitch video, be sure to check out my workshops. Learn the infinite potential of each stitch through my Stitch Explorer workshop, or you can check out my Magic Threads bundle and save $27 by getting all of my embroidery and design workshops in one place. Head to mixedcolor.net for more. Oh, and I think this is the point where I'm supposed to ask you to like and subscribe, I guess? I don't know. I'm new to this.